Hello everyone, we're back. I'm Rocky.
I'm Harry.
And he's drinking. It's not, what time is it? Guess it's 5 o'clock somewhere. So we have an interesting topic for you today.
This is not alcohol. This is gingerade.
Right. So today we are having a debate, a healthy debate. And like we talked to you about on our other videos, you'll get a hodgepodge of whatever jumps into our minds is what we're going to talk about today. And I think we have an interesting debate that we're going to try to get out in 10 minutes or less. But let's go ahead and kick it off.
Okay, for you all out there, these are our quick debates. We debate things every single day throughout the day. So we decided to bring these debates to you. But at the end of it, we want you to decide whose side you're on. The person who has the least amount of votes will eat humble pie and will acknowledge that they were wrong in the debate.
Yes,
okay?
So get ready.
Get ready. You get ready.
You get ready.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, so today's debate is it was in the news this week, and you don't have to be a fan of sport to chime in on this, but there's a player with the Milwaukee Bucks, and they just lost to the last place team, and a reporter asked Giannis, does he consider the season a failure?
So I'm going to just go ahead and, I can't really do it justice. I'm going to just cut to the video.
There's no failure in sports. You know, there's good days, bad days. Some days you are able to be successful, some days you're not. Some days it's your turn, some days it's not your turn. And that's what sports is about. You don't always win. Some other people's going to win. And this year, somebody else is going to win. Simple as that. We're going to come back next year, try to be better, try to build good habits, try to play better, not have a 10-day stretch with playing bad basketball. You know, and hopefully we can win a championship. So 50 years from 1971 to 2021 that we didn't win a championship, it was 50 years of failures? No, it was not. It was steps to it, you know, and we were able to win one. Hopefully we can win another one.
So that was the video. And so my stance is that I felt like Giannis gave a really good response, even though I expressed several times before with my husband where I work. There's definitely clarity around you either succeed or you fail. And I often joke around like, this ain't Canada. There's a winner and there's a loser. And I don't even know if that's true about Canada sports, but I've always heard that they don't have winners and losers in children's sports. Everybody gets a trophy. So this is kind of like one of those responses slightly. I don't think it's one of those responses where everybody gets a trophy. I think, and at least how I live my life so that I can kind of progress and keep going with things, is that there really aren't any failures. There's lessons. So when things don't go right, I will say, take a step back and say, well, what did work in this? What didn't work in this? And what's my lesson so I can build towards the next iteration? And even when I do things where I feel like the outcome was great, I do the same thing. I take a step back and say, what worked really well? What could we improve on, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't necessarily feel like there are L's in life. As long as there's runway to keep going, I don't think there are any finite L's in life. You have opportunities to rework it, learn lessons, and do it again, and then, you know, keep working and iterating. Even when you do quote win, I still don't think it's necessarily the end. It's like success is a journey. It's not a destination. And so you're always working towards the next best thing, and always, you know. So yeah, I feel like he gave a really good answer, and I know that's. I don't know if it's contrary to popular belief. I feel like maybe the audience may be divided on this 50-50, but it may be contrary to popular belief. But I honestly feel like there are lessons and not failures.
Okay, so I personally like Giannis, everything I know of him. Outstanding young man, very smart. So this is in no way a shot at him as a person.
Here comes the hammer.
I think the response was a great response by Giannis. If he was a AAU coach or a youth coach. But as a professional athlete, and we use the word professional, he's being paid a lot of money to win championships. I understand success and failure are on a continuum. I get all of that. The question posed to him was, do you think this season is a failure? He can never have this season back. the 2022-2023 basketball season. So in my opinion, that is a yes or a no, then followed up by whatever else happens. If you're being paid $20 to $30 to $40, $50 million a year to win a championship and you don't do it, that's a failure. Failure, just like success, is not final. Okay, I actually have that on my email. Neither failure nor success is final. So I get it. It is a continuum, but it's still check marks. And the fact that Giannis has won an NBA title within the last 5 years, he's taken a step back. His team has taken a step back. My question is, if they win the championship, is the season a success?
I think if you win the championship, you're a winner. If you lose, you're a loser. There's a difference between winning and losing, success and failure when you're looking at the grand scheme of things. I feel in this case, I liked his response. I didn't think it was a failure. They lost, yes. He can say, yeah, we were losers. We lost.
Yeah, a loser.
They lost the championship or whatever they were playing for, because I don't even know.
But if you look at his comment, he said there's no failure in sports. Like, that's Pop Warner level talk. That's not professional athlete talk. There's people, so think about people who are working concessions, who, you know, they may have an extra week or whatever. They have more days to make money. But because the team failed, that doesn't happen anymore. So is it a failure to them? Did that team fail them?
I could certainly say that the season could be described as a disappointment, but I don't necessarily think it's a failure. He might have let the fans down. He may have let people down in whatever sector of, you know, who's a stakeholder in games.
So
he probably let them down.
If he let
it
the
was probably
fans down,
disappointment.
if he let the fans down, what did he do to the fans?
If you look up the word fail, I don't think it says disappointment or let down.
What did, if you say, I
don't think if I look up the word fail and look for synonyms, it doesn't say disappointment or let down.
If I let you down, I failed you. If I let you down, I failed you. If I disappointed you, I failed you. It's not a final destination. It's just a check mark in the journey. But this check mark is a failure. Now, in my opinion, especially when you're talking about high-level sports, how can you say there's no failure? There's more teams than Milwaukee's going to fail. Now, this is a huge failure because an 8 seed beating a 1 seed is something that's very rare in the NBA. So it is a failure. And I feel that as long as we keep sugarcoating this, we're always going to insulate our feelings. We're always going to try to, you know, justify being less than our best.
Why does the seeding matter in your justification? If the 8 seed loses, is it still not a failure? Or by your definition?
Yeah, so the seeding matters because it's levels of failure to it, right?
Okay.
So that's a bigger failure if you're losing to an 8 seed, but it's still a failure.
Right. How many teams are there?
I don't know, like 20 something maybe?
Okay. If team number 28, that's the very last one, loses to team seed number 1, and they get asked that same question, don't you think they'll feel like they were successful that year? They feel like the season was a success?
Anytime you end your season not in the playoffs, and I'm talking about professional
championship
sports.
game, the very final game, they lose.
I'm talking about
game.
I'm talking about in professional sports. Okay, and let's talk about professional corporate world. Let's talk about real life and then professional sports. So you said if the 28th team lost to the first team, and you asked, was that season a failure? And you said, what is the expected answer?
And if they said no, it was not a failure, you would disagree?
Every single team that loses, it's not in the playoffs, or ends their season with a loss, it's a failure. Now, it's a certain level of failure to that, but they failed to accomplish the goal. If their goal was to win an NBA championship, which should be everybody's goal, they failed in that. Now, they could have succeeded in other ways. They could have succeeded saying, hey, we hadn't made the playoffs in 20 years. We made the playoffs. That's success. But again, failure is not just one thing. Failure is not just one thing. Failure is multiple things. But for him, he can say, well, the season wasn't a failure because we were the number 1 seed. Mm-hmm. Okay? But at the end of the day, how did your season end? It ended in a loss.
Yeah.
And a loss is a failure.
I would definitely, I agree that there are check marks within it. However, I can't wholly agree with it being your whole season being a complete failure. There are so many things, there are so many, what we call in business, KPIs, key performance indicators that we're measuring throughout the year. Did we get faster? Did we have less turnovers? I don't watch basketball, by the way. All the things, spend less money. I don't even know, all the things. And all of those things were good. Let's say all of those things were great except for winning the last thing. So you're saying everything we've done this year, throw it away. It was a failure because we didn't win the championship. I don't agree.
Actually, I'll expand upon that a little more. Okay, if it's the 2018, they've not made the playoffs in 20 years, and they're going into the season. Obviously, they hope to win the championship, but the expectations is for them to be competitive. Mm-hmm. Let's see. But I look at failure also is if you have not gotten better or you have slid back from where you were. So again, I don't know if it was in that clip, Giannis mentioned to the reporter, you asked this question last year also, was the season a failure? He wasn't prepared to answer it last year, and he got himself prepared this year, which is probably a problem in itself. They was prepared for that.
Did they go further last year than they did this year?
I don't remember, but I know they didn't win the championship. Mm-hmm. You use Michael Jordan as an example. It's like that Bulls team, if you look at them, got better every single year. The Milwaukee Bucks have not gotten better every single year. And Giannis took that question personally. But the question was a general question. It wasn't aimed at Giannis. Now, as the leader, he has to stand out there and be accountable for it. But at the end of the day, failure could happen at a lot of points. But when we give outs and say, no, it's not a failure, it's a continuum, as long as you keep sugarcoating and patting yourself on the back and feeling good about life, I don't see how you're motivated to not let this happen again. So I feel him admitting that it's failure, one, is a strong sign of leadership, and I don't question him because I think he's a great leader. But two, it gives you motivation to correct it because you've stood in front of the crowd and you've taken accountability for it instead of giving everybody in your organization, including yourself, a cop-out. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think he clearly stated in I think in the clip it shows he does have the motivation to get better. He sees it as long as we're making incremental progress, that to him is signs of success. So I don't think he's not motivated to get better or rally all those people and pull them to the fire to get better. That's his goal, and that's how they measure success. So I just think it's just, a different way of looking at it, but he doesn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, is that the phrase? Yeah, he's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what the question was. Do you feel like the season was a failure? And he feels like it was not a failure. There were things I'm sure they've done right that he didn't articulate, going point by point, but I don't think that it is right to say the whole season itself was a failure. They're working towards something. I don't know the history to say that they've gotten better or worse. If I had that context, I could even speak better and maybe side with you. I don't have that context. I just have this moment. But in general terms, I just don't agree. But I think we let the audience decide on this one. Our
debate is she's refusing to use the word failure because for some reason, failure is a word that I believe in society is a taboo word now. People say, well, it's not failure, it's only lessons. No, lessons comes out of failures. So I believe failure is healthy. I believe admitting and acknowledging failure is healthy. If you're working in a job and you're constantly not hitting your goals and you're constantly being demoted, then you have failed.
I don't disagree that failure exists. I think, but the question, this particular question was that season, this is a whole big encompassing thing, was that a failure? I agree with how Giannis responded. I don't think the answer should have been yes.
So I look at it as, especially in sports, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's it. That one season is judged in its entirety. He can play 40 years, but in year 6, he failed. That's it. Years 7 through 40, he can win it all. But in year 6, it was a failure. I don't want to hear this. oh, it steps to this.
Yeah.
You already won an NBA
Listen,
title.
you'll hear a million people say, man, if I hadn't have tore up my knee, I would have. If I had one more season, ooh, I would have.
You know what they say about if grandma, she be grandpa. So we know what they say about if, but I don't know. You have anything else to put on the
No,
topic?
I'm going to let the audience decide on this one. Listen, I'm not against failure. I've admitted failure in my life. I do agree. You made a good point that somehow in society we've tried to soften what failure looks like and what it feels like. Because even when I admit failure, the people who are your echo chamber will say, "Oh no, no, no,
Yes,
you
yes.
didn't fail," and they,
Yes.
they lift you up, and that's all in the vein of trying to support the people that you care about. But the way this society has shaped it is that failure should not exist, and there's no such
Right.
thing as failure. I don't agree with that point, but this specific question was stating a broader thing. Was that whole thing a failure? I don't agree, and I agree with Giannis. And I know on your end, you agree in sports, especially being compensated for sports and having a whole ecosystem that is reliant on whether they win or lose. There's definitely failure and success. So.
Yeah, I think it's a you do it or you don't do it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, whether your goal was to, make the playoffs and you do it, then the season's a success.
Yeah.
If your goal is to win more games than the last year, then it's a success. But anytime you regress, it's a failure. But again, I do believe in lessons, and I do believe in using failure to fuel you. So I look at failure as I'm not going to say a positive, because nobody wants to fail, but I don't believe you can. I look at failure as like medicine. Once we admit it and we take it, we get a lot better from it. So that's how I view failure. So at the end of the day, it's a negative, but I look at when you acknowledge that negative, it turns into a positive. I commend Giannis. I commend him for giving an intelligent, seems like well thought out, articulate answer. But, I just believe when you are in a professional setting and you're getting paid, there are outcomes that need to be met. And when you don't meet those outcomes, it's a failure.
All right, we're going to leave this right here. You make your choice down below. Who do you think won? First, I want to know, what do you think about Giannis's message? And then between us, who won? I know it's... You see, he was pointing over to me.
Point it down, comment.
He was pointing to me. All right, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up and be sure to comment down below. Bye.
Bye-bye.